Review this game. So the game started with French defense, e4, e6, and we play knight f3. The most common move is d4 because we want to control the center. And controlling the center, this is one of the most important principles in chess opening. Since black didn't play, for example, e5 to control d4, so we can just push the pawn to d4. We have connected center pawns. So this is the book move. And black usually play d5, and then we can choose either exchange pawns or e5. So we play knight f3. This move is not bad. It's just not as good as d4. And we want to control this two square with the knight. But usually, if we can control the center with low value piece like pawns, so we usually use the pawns first. And then of course we can play d4 later. So black play d5. And the thing is, if we play d4, we'll lose the pawn. So probably if I would play y, I would take the pawn, and after the exchange, I would play d4. And if black takes up with the queen, I would play knight c3 to kick the queen first and develop the knight to get a tempo, and then d4. So we need to control the center. As I said, that is one of the principles for opening. And also, of course, another thing is developing pieces. So we play e5. And black plays c5, so black has pushed the three pawns, and black has built a very solid pawn structure. And we play c3, and hopefully push the pawn to d4 later. But in this case, actually black can play d4 first to control the square first, which blocks our pawn. But in this game, black didn't play that. Black moved knight to c6 and play d4. Okay, that's a good move. Now we have connected the three pawns, and also the pawn is supported by our queen and knight, and this is quite decent. Queen to b6 and bishop to f4. So this was a mistake actually, because the b2 pawn will be hanging. So the queen b6 is most common move from players who who have this position, and the queen has aimed at two pawns. One is b2 and another is d4. So how can we develop this stock square bishop without losing the pawn? So the best move turned out to be a3. And what is the purpose of the move? Actually, we can move the pawn to b4 later. So for example, if black play like e7, we can play b4, forcing the pawn taking either our d pawn or b pawn. If we take our b pawn, we can take the c pawn, and these two pawns are connected, and later we can move the bishop to b2 and protecting d4. So this is how white will usually resolve this b2 weakness. Okay, so bishop f4, and we lose the pawn, and that's a problem because first of all, our rook is under attack, and we are probably losing the c3 pawn very soon because we have to move the knight, and black won another pawn. So black is way better than us, and we attack the queen, develop the bishop, but it's good that we develop pieces very quickly and also make the king safe. And black move knight to f5, attack our d4, we attack the queen, that's a good move. Attack the queen and develop the knight and attack the c pawn. Black play queen to b6. Well, I don't think queen to b6 is a good move because if we take the pawn, the queen will be kicked again. So I will move the queen to c7. And if white take my pawn, so I have two pieces aiming at e5. So yeah, it's quite safe moving the queen to c7. I think we can take the pawn and we attack the queen, right? So we can win at least one pawn back, and later we can move, for example, queen back to c7. And here we can move the knight to d4 to further control the center, and later maybe knight to b5 and to d6. But we didn't take the pawn. Rook e1, bishop e7, and we take that with the knight. I will take it up with the pawn because, as I said, we can get a tempo, attack the queen. and I will move the knight to d4 instead. And this is center. And we can maneuver the knight to b5 or d6, which is even like dangerous for our opponent. Rook to c5, castle, rook to c3. We move the rook. I assume we want to attack the king side, so we move it back. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but we lose the pawn. Yeah, this is a little tricky to protect the d4. So actually, if we have the pawn at c5, it's actually easier to be protected. But the pawn at when we take with the rook, the d4 pawn is being attacked by, 3 pieces. So we cannot really move, or bishop e3 doesn't really work because knight to e2, that's a check, and the pin is resolved. So we take the knight, exchange. Well, I will move the bishop. I will save at least one. I will save the bishop pair, because usually bishop pair are slightly powerful than a knight plus a bishop. After the exchange, bishop to d7. So now black has 7 pawns, white has 5 pawns, black has 2 more pawns, and black is better. Control the open file. That's a good move. Controlling the open file with the rook. But instead of taking the rook, I will move the rook to c3. So doubling the rook. Because once we take the rook, black will control the c file. This is something we need to be careful. Rook c3, we can still control the c file. And for example, like we can move the rook to c7, for example. Yeah, and our rook will be active. And if black doesn't take our rook, we can put it to c7. So now we want to attack the king, but only a bishop, and the rook cannot do anything really dangerous. h3, solve the background problem, but we lost another pawn. a5, rook c3, aiming at c8, f5. That's interesting. Actually, bishop c6 can solve the problem very well. So black should close the c file. And f5, first of all, white won a pawn, and this pawn is pretty dangerous. It's a passed pawn, and f8 is controlled by the bishop. And we pin the bishop. That's a good move. That's a really good move. I think black lose the bishop. We can play f7, I think. Take, we can win the bishop. Taking the pawn. We can play f7 later, probably. Yeah, this is also a good move. King e7. The problem is black cannot really stop f7. And this is a really, really strong, I think if we play f7, we can promote, right? This is a dark square. Black cannot stop the pawn, so we should play f7. So rook b, a, and 7. Of course, we can have a queen, but we will lose a rook, which is unnecessary. But it's very impressive that white being like better from bad position. That's impressive. I can see the resilience from the white side. Okay, that's and each side doesn't have much time on the clock. 5 seconds, 8 seconds. So black make another blunder, losing a bishop. And we check. We find a way to. Okay, we actually can mate. We have 8 seconds. It's quite stressful. Win the pawn, win another pawn. Rook b1, that's a good move, and black have a queen. Let's see how did the game end up. Okay, take the pawn. Black actually can take our bishop, right? So, we can play queen e6, and they're a skewer. But I understand, we only have 10 seconds. That's, so, yeah, that's why we, and also our opponent blundered the queen. So we won. That's an impressive game.